the apple of gold and the frame of silver. Hello, and welcome to the Charles Cook Podcast. Um, Focus of this podcast is on state and local issues here in the state of Tennessee, and you can follow my podcast on a lot of the social media platforms. So just go to those and Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, whatever, Facebook, and just Google, just search Charles Cook Podcast, and you should be able to find them there. Today, I want to talk about, as I said at the start, the apple of gold and the frame of silver. So, as many of you have noticed, it doesn't seem how much we vote for so-called conservatives when it comes to our government. Nothing really seems to change. The size of government, whether it be at the municipal level, the county level, the state level, or the federal level, always seems to be growing. And we never have a reduction of government. And it doesn't matter how great the person says they are, how conservative, how liberty-minded they always seem to grow the size of government. So why is that? Well, it's because we don't have a fundamental understanding of what the role of government is. And so that can be found in the Declaration of Independence. And there's a reason why, schools do not teach the Declaration of Independence anymore. They never focus on it. They, it goes by the wayside. And why is that? The only time we hear of the Declaration of Independence anymore is, we celebrate the 4th of July instead of Independence Day. We celebrate a date instead of what the day really is. It's the day of our independence. To me, I look at it as like celebrating December the 25th instead of Christmas, or celebrating the date that Easter falls on instead of Easter. So, but that's just me. I'm a little different than most. But the facts are, we have all these people who say, "Oh yeah, I read the Constitution and I understand it. This is my guide to my life right here is the Constitution. This is what guides me." And but because they don't study the Declaration of Independence, that's where they get this all messed up. So where did a lot of this start? I mean, you look at, this is not a very old country. We're 200 something years old, and about 250 years old. And compared to most countries, we're very new. And how did we fall by the wayside so much? And well, I mean, if you go back and you really start studying this stuff and you look into things, you'll understand that it was done by design. And a lot of that happened. I know a lot of y'all are not going to like this, but a lot of this really took place under Abraham Lincoln. But then, it just kept going on and on and on. Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson took and lit the match to the brush fire that started all this. And I'll share a couple things here with you. So you pull this up on my screen. This is what I'm talking about right here. This is what the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence was described as the Declaration of Independence as the apple of gold. This is what set this country in motion. This is the apple. This right here is what made this country. I want to point out something to you. If you look in the original text, an original copy of the Declaration of Independence, you'll see that the word united is not capitalized. It's because we just come together. The states of America, look at that. States of America, capitalized, but united wasn't. But then to support this new nation that was set up and by the Declaration of Independence, they scrapped the Articles of Confederation and tried to create a more perfect union between the states of America. And to do that, they created the Constitution. So, and the Constitution being the frame of silver around this Declaration of Independence, the Constitution was set up to support this declaration. Okay, hope that makes sense. So now I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and go back. I want to read scripture from the Bible, Proverbs, chapter 25, verse 11. And I told you that the Declaration was the apple of gold, the Constitution was the frame of silver. Well, you go to Proverbs 25, chapter 25, verse 11. This is what it says. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a pitcher of silver. So I thought that was pretty neat that Proverbs mentions the same thing. So the apple of gold is the Declaration of Independence. So when I talk about Woodrow Wilson coming to the point where, Woodrow Wilson was not a fan of the Constitution, and he wasn't a fan of the Declaration. He believed that government was a living body, that the Constitution was a living body, and it had to change with times. So whatever was going on at the time is what it needed to be set to fit. And, that's what a lot of the progressive movement started teaching. And there are ways of building the administrative state to work around and circumvent the Constitution. But I want to, and to help him do that, remember what I said. The Constitution was framing the Declaration of Independence because the Declaration of Independence is where it's at. It's why this country's here, and it tells the purpose of government. So I want to go back and share something else with you. This is Wilson. This is what Wilson said about the Declaration of Independence. He said, if you want to understand the real Declaration of Independence, do not repeat the preface. Okay? If you want to understand the real Declaration of Independence, do not repeat the preface. Now, why would he do that? Because the preface is, the whole thing at the top where you say, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary, and so on. And then you get down to where the justification of this declaration is the laws of nature, and of nature's God, which is God's law, and God is the God of nature, and you have to really look that up and study it and understand what that really means. But then you get on down to, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Well, Wilson says that don't matter. Don't pay no attention to that. That doesn't matter. But what did FDR call rights? Political rights. They were granted by the government and the politics of that day. What do we see going on today? But Then you get here, rights among certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, listen very carefully, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay, so that's the purpose of governments, not the federal government, not just the federal. It's the state governments, the county governments, the municipal governments. They're instituted by what the Declaration of Independence says, and our founders signed their name to, is to secure our rights. If it goes beyond that, outside of that scope, then they're abusing their power. And that's why the Constitution was written, to set the federal government up at what it has. That's why states have constitutions, to set its powers. And anything, look back at it, look at the Ninth Amendment. It will tell you that the power resides to the people. The power in the state governments will, anything that's not delegated to the federal government through the Constitution goes back to the states or to the people. Understand? So that's why, if you go back and you read the Declaration of Independence, read that preface, and it lays it out there. And because of the things listed in the preface, then the charges, the grievances that they had against King George is what made those grievances wrong, was what was laid out in the preface. So what Wilson said was, it was the grievances in that day and time which should set the Constitution. The things going on today in time is what should set the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And we see them working around that now with the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. You can't even speak freely anymore without them wanting to put you in jail or cancel you or whatever. This is what they do. And so, and as much as a lot of people don't realize that in the preface of the Declaration of Independence, it's here. There's 4 rights listed in it, and they're very important. The right to life, the right to liberty, the right to pursuit of happiness, and the most fundamental, and this is what our founding fathers did, is the right to alter or abolish our government. It's so important that Jefferson wrote it in the preface twice. You have a right to alter or abolish your government if it becomes destructive. Not only a right, you have a duty to do that. So this is why they don't teach the Declaration of Independence anymore. And I beg you, please go read it before you read the Constitution. And it will, then when you read the grievances, you'll see the reason why the Bill of Rights was written. The Constitution sets up the federal government and tells you the role of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Wilson said it's like a body's organs working against each other. That's why it was set up that way, to keep government from growing and getting out of hand and abusing the people. And they have circumvented it with the administrative state, and us electing people who do not understand the sole role of government in our founders' eyes is to protect our rights, to protect our rights. That's why they're called constitutional protected rights, not constitutional rights. Our rights were created by God, were given to us by God. We were endowed. That means the endowment, it was endowed to you by our Creator. God gave those rights to you, not the government. And the government under the Constitution was set up to protect those God-given rights. And if the Constitution goes away tomorrow, we still have God-given rights. Everybody that is born in this world has God-given rights. And that's where I differ with a lot of these people who say, well, these illegal immigrants that come here don't have constitutional rights. You're right, they don't have constitutional rights, but they got God-given rights, and God looks at them just like they do us, whether you like it or not. And that's a hard pill for some people to swallow, but I'm just telling you the way it is. That's the way it's set up. And I'm sick of seeing these people who run as stand firm, like Joe Carr in Middle Tennessee, who was part of the state government down there, and then left the state government and ran for county mayor in Rutherford County, I believe. And then when he gets in office, supports a 16-cent property tax increase. Why are you doing that? You railed against all this and talk about standing firm, and then when you get in office, you support a tax increase. Well, I don't know what you want me to do. You want us to cut stuff? Yes, cut it. Look at it and see what by state law is required of a county government to do. If you're going beyond that, cut it. It's plain and simple. Doing a budget is not that hard, but this is what they do. We elect Republican after Republican after Republican, and all we get is more government growth, more spending, more taxes, and people wonder why we're not getting anywhere, because we don't understand what the role of government is, and it infuriates me. I guess you can tell that. Here in Morristown, we raise property taxes to build a community center. Now, do you really believe that our founding fathers would say the role of government is to build a community center and tax the people and then charge them on top of those taxes to use it? We have lost our mind. And then if you look at the budget, they give $70-something thousand to the Chamber of Commerce. They give thousands of dollars to Keep America Beautiful. And then they tell you that they're going to have to raise your garbage fee because they can't afford the new tipping fees. I say get out of the garbage collection business and let us pay for it and contract with whoever we want to. That's how you reduce the size of government. You get government out of it. But people, they talk a good game. These Republicans, those so-called conservatives, get elected, and then they ain't got the guts to do anything. We need people who have got guts, who understand the fundamentals of government and do it. Fired up today. I'm sick of this. And this don't even get to the federal government. This is local and state. If you want your government to shrink, you want your taxes to go down, you are going to have to start voting for people who will make tough decisions. Not those who say, oh, I'm a lifelong Republican, I'm conservative, I'll do what's right. And then they get elected, and the first thing they do is start pushing a tax increase. And if it ain't that, they're voting to let little boys go into girls' bathrooms. You know, gives tax dollars to support abortions and, you know, mutilating teenagers, kids. We are not getting anywhere. until we fix this system. And it's up to us to understand and know and question every one of these people. Look, I don't care if they're your best friend. Everyone is not cut out to serve in government. They may be a good guy. They may be a good woman. They may be a good Christian, but they're not fit to serve in government. That's the bottom line. If they can't read this and comprehend this and go in there and say, this is what I'm going to do. And if you send me to office, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to vote. Don't vote for them. Voting for the lesser of two evils is this is where it's got us. And I'm frankly sick of it. What kind of country are we leaving our kids and our grandkids? We wonder why we're $32 trillion in debt. We tax and borrow money from a federal government at the federal level and send billions of dollars to Ukraine. It may be a good cause, but it's not the role of government. It's to secure your rights in this country, not in Ukraine. If you want to support Ukraine, you want to pull out your checkbook and write them a check, go for it. If you want to support Israel and do the same thing and write Israel a check, go for it. Whichever it wants to be. But we know you won't, because most people do not support good conservative organizations. Bottom line, they're not really good and tight with their money, but they keep it in their pocket. And yet they vote for people who will send billions upon billions of dollars to other countries, or will vote at a local level to spend millions of dollars on a community center. We'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on building a new park. We'll spend $130 million on building a new jail that was way over cost in the county. We will, at the state level, we will send billions of dollars to West Tennessee to Ford to build a EV plant down there. That's their EV division is losing billions of dollars, and we're giving away billions of dollars in taxpayer money to Ford, and then they work as liberals behind us to push the liberal agenda. This is what our Republican governor and Republican legislature did. And we wonder where we're at. And then, oh, Lord, let me tell you what we've done. This is what our legislature's done. Let me tell you what the good Republican leadership did here in Tennessee. We gave you a tax-free weekend just right before you go back to school, so your kids can have what they need and you don't have to pay taxes. Oh, let me tell you what we did. We cut taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on groceries for 3 months here in the state of Tennessee. Boy, we done such a great job. How much did they give Ford? How much are they giving these woke corporations? Giving you pennies. And we wonder why our state government is growing. Make sure you understand this. In 13 years since the Republicans took control of the legislature and the governor's house, our budget has doubled in the state of Tennessee. Everything we do, we keep growing the size of government. These guys talk about reducing the size of government, being good conservatives, and they've done nothing. Name one Republican who voted against the governor's budget. I bet you can't name one, because I don't believe there was one. So As you can tell, I'm fired up. This one's been brewing in me for a while. We don't understand the fundamentals of government, and that's why it's by design. That's why they took civics out of school and everything. That's why you don't see your kids learning this stuff. And this has been going on since the 1800s, that come in, bringing professors in from Germany and Europe and teaching this progressive stuff in our institutions, in our universities, that have trickled down through our education system, and you can see where it is today. And I'm going to tell you, I did not learn this stuff in school. I had to learn it on my own. I had to seek the knowledge of this stuff. I had to go read, take online courses, and everything else to learn this stuff. Plug to Hillsdale College. Y'all need to go take some courses on there. Constitution 101, 201, and learn this stuff. Sit down and read. Get you a Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, so you can look up the words and know what they meant at that time, to understand what our founders put in these documents, what the words meant back then, what the word endow means, what the word unalienable means. Unalienable was a real estate term, meaning that you could not transfer ownership. To alienate something was transferring ownerships. So if you had unalienable rights, that means that you could not give up your rights. Your rights could not be taken from you, because they were given to you, endowed by God. Please start studying this stuff. Start understanding it, and hold these politicians accountable. If you think voting straight Republican is going to do anything, you're wrong. That's why we're at where we're at right now. So that's my rant for today. I'm just plumb sick of this, and I'll tell you how stupid these people are. Last week, when they did the indictment of Trump, MSNBC has Al Sharpton on there, and he's talking about, could you imagine 75 years from now, when our children are studying this in school, what it would have been like for us to see that Thomas Jefferson and James Madison would have overthrown the government to keep power? That's exactly what they did. And that's why they put it in here. Their government was destructive, abusive, tyrant. And that's exactly what Jefferson and Madison and them did. Adams, all of them. And that's why Jefferson put it in here, said, your fourth right, that was listed twice in the Declaration preface, is you have a right to alter or abolish your government. You have a duty to do it. And now we look at the FBI, the CIA, and everything that they're doing. I would say it's destructive, wouldn't you? It's abusive. Two-tiered justice system. And I'll leave it there. I'm done. So, as I said, follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, TuneIn, and Alexa. Search for the Charles Cook Podcast, and you'll be notified when I upload new content. With that, God bless you. Have a great day, and I hope your blood pressure is not gotten as high as mine. Have a great week. Bye-bye.